Hello, my name is Flohr, and I'm a senior at Winford High School. Today I will be presenting my senior project of writing and publishing a book. My goal for my book in this project was mainly to be an author, not to become a famous author, but be an author. I wanted my ideas down on a page, down to where it'd be readily available for anyone to purchase on the market of Amazon. Now, even though Amazon wasn't the first plan, it did become my final plan and did really help me in the end. A little about myself is I'm now actually a self-published author on Amazon, and it is available for anyone to purchase on Amazon. My writing part of my project took over 100 hours, not counting editing with my editor, editing myself, editing the cover image, picking the cover image, or going over the content in my book, like reviewing scenes. My first attempts was a handwritten manuscript of about 60 pages when I was in the 7th grade. Another attempt was, in my first part of my junior year, was about 20 handwritten pages. And my third and final attempt is the book I have out now. I do not have the first 60 pages due to me misplacing or throwing away the binder, since it was only from 7th grade and never thought I'd need it again. My 20 other pages, I have no clue where those are at either, and I'm sorry to say, but I do have an old notebook filled with ideas and tons of different stuff. It mainly has to do with the creatures and characters that some I never used, some ideas I never used, characters I never used, and infected in the book I never used, since my book is post-apocalyptic, which I will touch on later when I go to the genre and different publishers. The first plan I had was to go through the traditional publishing route. This was for a couple of reasons, because I thought it was the easiest at the time. This changed, however, when I found out about self-publishing and the ease of that. Self-publishing versus traditional publishing. Self-publishing opens up a lot more doors for the author, but it also doesn't hold your hand as much as what traditional publishing would do. With traditional publishing, you have an editor through the company, you have cover imaging through the company, and as the author, you really just have to write the story and go over scenes that your publisher wants. But the publisher has to agree with the concept, the genre, and all the stuff in the book, which can be hard, because different publishers want different things. A publisher might only do romance novels, a publisher might only do history. With mine being fiction and post-apocalyptic, mine was a very slim market. But with Amazon, they don't care what you publish. You can publish anything from romance to history to post-apocalyptic fiction. They are very open with all genres and ideas in the community guidelines. Now, the cost with self-publishing, you have to find your own editor, you have to find your own cover image, but everything else is more free to you. You have choice when you self-publish. With traditional publishing, you give up some of your choices when you do publish through a company, since it's under their name. The start of this was slow, so to speak. I had to figure out my settings, my beginning, and my ending. Now, the beginning was always a challenge for me in my first 2 manuscripts, because I never truly liked my beginning. I always felt like it fell flat. With my third entry, my third manuscript, I was happy with my beginning, and that's how it continued on deeper into the story. It gave way to a sense of the world it was in. Dreary, dread, just not a good place all around. Post-apocalyptic, so to speak. It was a very long process of writing, and once I got that down, I really needed to pick up on my editing and what I was going to do, where I was going to publish. Now, halfway through the book, I did know I was publishing through Amazon, but I didn't know all of the concepts and different things I needed to know. The projected cost was very high. The cover could have been anywhere from $100 to $500. The editing can be anywhere upwards of $1,200 depending on how many words you have, because most editors charge by the word. Printing is everywhere is usually around $5.20 per book, and that's paperback, not hardcover. Hardcovers are a lot more on printing because of the cover. Paperbacks are a lot cheaper and a lot more easily printable. But the actual costs were much different. They were way better for me being self-published, since most of the self-publishers have to pay those really high costs. The cover was nothing. The editing was nothing. The cover was done by a fellow classmate of mine, who I will talk about later. The editing was also done by a family member, or used to be a family member, and I'll talk about her later, but both of them were very helpful in this project, and I had them do they're actually doing the next book too, cover and editing. The printing was about the same. It was $5.13 through Amazon, because they take that out of my royalty plans for the paperback. Now, my mentor's name is Phyllis Butterworth. She was a lovely person to meet, very lovely person to talk to. She has done a lot in her life and is just an all-around good person, in my opinion. She runs a charity at the Marion Hospital in dedication to her husband. She had taught at the OSU campus, and she also was a newspaper editor for about 20 years, and some, at the Marion Star. She was a joy to work with. She was very easy on the editing, and when I meant easy, I meant she was easy on me, not on the book. She was very thorough with the book and had I noticed a lot of my mistakes, but that was good. I needed them to be noticed and needed them to be fixed, but she was perfect sure. She was actually quite impressed with how I wrote the book. She was quite impressed with how the story was flowing and the characters. She was quite impressed with how memorable each character was. She noted how I did not have many throwaway characters, which I didn't want to. I wanted each character to have their own special personality. And that is my mentor log. We mainly did ours in big hours. We did it in big chunks of time to get through all the book within about a couple weeks of editing. So I didn't have to do much afterwards. The cover here is, the cover on the Flohr is the stock. That's just the regular raw image. That was the cover in the beginning when I first started editing it. That cover did get scrapped after some input I got from my peers, through other authors, and through other people. The final cover came with the help of a teacher at Winford, Mr. Enders. He helped me get the text style for the title. He also, before this I was in yearbook, and he taught me how to use the editing. So he taught me how to use a way to outline the mask and give it kind of a glow, which was my choice. And I just had to expand my name a bit more from the first book. But one thing I never really wanted to blur, because there most of that's not blurred, but here everything's blurred except the mask and the eyepiece, which I felt like the eyepiece didn't need to be blurred, because if you look at it, it has a reflection, a very clear reflection, which I thought was a very nice touch. As I said before, Mr. Enders had helped me with the cover, and it was thanks to him that I knew most of the mechanics around the Adobe system with Photoshop. Now, this is Jordan Robinette. He was the one that helped me with the cover image. He took 4 images, and I had to pick out of those 4 which one I wanted to use for my cover image. His senior project dealt with photography, so I thought it would be a perfect idea to ask him, would you like to take a cover image to have cover rights to my book? He said of course he'd love to, and I would let him have cover rights, of course. He was a pretty good help. He took some really good images, and it was really tough for me to decide which image I had to choose. And I settled on the one that you saw before in the final cover. And as I said before, photoshopping with Mr. Enders, a lot of my Photoshop skills came from his yearbook class, which transitioned over to my book cover. And most of it I had to do on his computer, since I did not have a system to run the Adobe Flash, which I am very thankful for him for. I owe a lot to him and Jordan and Miss Butterworth. And they were all very great helps, and I'm very thankful for them. And this is my final cover. As before you saw, the final cover was kind of a Mark II of the middle cover that you saw before, because I did get peer review. I didn't take the review and expand upon it. I did extend the title and make it bigger. I did run my name a bit bigger due to another author. I did get in touch with another author and asked them a few pointers on the cover, and she said to make it stand out, and I felt like I made it stand out to the point where people would want to take it off the shelf and look at. The editing process was pretty cut and clean because most of her editing was done on Word while I did mine on Docs. And if you send a doc over to me on my Google, it mainly shows the same highlights as would a teacher edit it. So it wasn't very hard at all, just show her name and show the editing. And sometimes I would have to say no to an edit because it didn't fit the character, such as word choice. Some people did have some choice words as going and gonna, like that's just how they talk, like sort of accents. Like we have a northern accent here in Ohio, where if you go southern in Ohio, they have more of a southern accent. It's kind of that, like soda and pop, those two things. The book's contents, this was another driving force behind choosing Amazon. The book's contents is more of dread, dreary, humanity trying to rebuild itself, but still humanity's still kind of down in the dirt after the infection. Which, I don't touch on the origins of the infection in this book. I do, however, kind of hint at what it was before the infection. The book's contents, nothing is too bad. It's very, I'd say PG-13 if it was a movie. It was just dread, dreary. It's not a good place. That's how I can say it safely. There is death, there is sadness, and that's the plain and simple point of it. That's not going to be a happy-go-lucky post-apocalypse. It's not good. People are trying to rebuild, but there's always obstacles, how people would deal with it. Sorry? The book's contents continue. The main character's ideals are tested within the time, and the feelings towards others will change. But he started off as a loner in the beginning of the book, even before the book, because he does have some pre-story to the book, so to speak. And he's a drifter. He never did much with others. He never really got to know names. But later in the book, which was about the third or fourth chapter, I do believe, he does meet a group of people calling themselves the Legion. And they do take him in, they do kind of show him, hey, and not all the world's bad, we're trying to help people, we're trying to rebuild it. And he kind of rolls with them, but honestly, with how the book is, there's something deeper lurking. Not with the Legion, but with the whole story later on. I don't want to spoil anything, but I do think the main villain you will come to enjoy and love, because I really enjoy the villain as he is. Now, my take on Ryan's story is very, I don't want to say melancholy, but it's, some people can write a full-length story through and through and continue on in big parts. Some people have to write short stories. Some people can, so to say, write a whole, it's like movies and TV shows. Some people can write a TV show. Some people can write a movie. And that's the difference. Some people can write a novel, some people can write short stories. Not everyone can do both. Not a lot of people can do both. I'm not saying it's not impossible, but some people are naturally better at writing a full-length story, a novel, than writing two short stories that coincide with each other. And that's my take on it. You have to know how long your book's going to be, how long, what you want the main character to do within what time frame. Because it's just such a task that you have to get used to it. Now, when I was talking about writing and how much time, a lot of this, I'm interested in this already, which was post-apocalyptic infections. So I did my own research leisurely and for the book. My leisure research mainly resulted in finding different infections, different takes on humanity, what people did in times of need, times when they thought everything was rough. I mean, about humanity, a lot of people do expect the world to end, and those are called doomsday preppers. And they were very good people to look at for the research due to all the stuff in it. So Now, my research was mostly making my own plague. I had to go over how viruses worked, how everything worked. Now, we don't know everything about viruses. We don't even know if they're actually living or not. The smallest thing that might be living, and since we don't know everything about them, I took some of that leeway and used it as I'm going to run with it with the infection. So I chose to make the infection have a few choice things, and today there's a system called CRISPR, which basically can take pieces of DNA out and shove some in however you want it to, as I will explain later with 2 viruses. What the research resulted in was my own amalgamation of an infection. Mixing progeria, which is a genetic defect which rapidly accelerates aging, and EBV, Epstein-Barr disease, which has an effect with the blood and the bone marrow. Now, I won't explain it too much because I do plan to explain this in another book coming up, which I'll get on later, but I do want to explain a little bit for you to understand that it does play into it, and that I did put the time and the research into it to show how it works in the later series. But the reason why I chose Amazon, the royalty plans were great. Honestly, I wouldn't have it any other way. Amazon is a great website that gave me a lot of royalties, which royalties are, I will touch on later, but they gave me so much freedom with my book, and I can't thank them enough. And they just print on demand, and I can order books whenever I want. People can order books whenever they want. It's just a very easy website to work with. And author royalties, as I said I would touch on, this is one of my royalty earning charts. Ebook royalties, I earn more on a paperback than I earn on an ebook. The paperback I earn, I think, around $5 on, with the ebook I earn around $4 on. But this is my first month's earnings, and my total royalties started around $50. Self-advertising, I do a lot of advertising myself since Amazon doesn't let me have that sort of freedom. Most of my advertising was done through local newspapers that, besides Telegraph Forum, featured me, and I did some through Twitter. Now, an ISBN, Amazon gives you a free ISBN, so I didn't have to worry too much about it. But I had to get an ISBN through Amazon. Boker offers them for $125, but that's if you're publishing through other places, where Amazon gave one to me free, so I did not have to worry about that. Copyright, everything's copyrighted as soon as you write it down. Now, filing for a copyright is if someone's copied it. All you need to do for copyright is make a copyright page, which I'll explain here in a second. And here's the copyright page. The copyright page / disclaimer page kind of gives, you have rights, and nothing in this book is supposed to reference anyone else. It's all coincidence if it does. Names, places, people, it's all that. It's what you see in everything. It's kind of ironically, it's kind of a copy-paste sort of scenario, so everything's the same for most of them, which is kind of ironic due to it being a copyright page. But it's mainly just to protect the author and his rights. The formatting wasn't hard. You just go through Amazon. They teach you how to do everything. It was mainly size the pages up so where they can print it, get the page numbers in the right spot, and format the cover. Finishing up, my book is now available on the Amazon Marketplace. It's available for anyone to purchase and for anyone to look at. I'm very proud of my work. I'm very proud of what I did. And I hope later that I will rise in notoriety in Amazon and that I can get my book out to more people and show more people that they can write. I'm 18 and I wrote a full book and published it. And to end on, I am planning a sequel. I'm actually planning 2 more books even after that sequel. Just because I have that many ideas, because this book has stuck with me for so long, and I don't want to stop the story. I want it to continue. I thank you for your time, for my presentation, for listening to me. I encourage you to check out my book on Amazon Marketplace. Please have a great day, stay healthy, and if you wish to check out the book, it is Plagued, or you can look up my name, Flohr, on Amazon. Have a wonderful day.